Like, I really can't discuss it. We couldn't really identify it essentially, and it had outperformed them. And then ultimately what I saw with the pushback of the military not even wanting to share with Congress information, which is a big problem because when you have Congress that's supposed to be the advocate and voice for the American people, the oversight body, and you're being denied access, not just from a base commander, but high level up at the Pentagon, even Secretary of Defense, it's a problem. Based on our investigations and stuff that we've seen, okay, there is definitely something that I think would rival what we know currently with physics, and a tech that potentially is out there that we don't have the ability to reproduce. Have I seen photo documentation of aircraft that I believe were not made by mankind? Yes.
Just staring at the sky, because they all saw it. And then it floated there for like a minute or two and then shot straight up into the sky and punched a hole in the clouds. And light came through because it's a cloudy day. And what am I supposed to make of that?
This is by Frank Mead, who's Air Force Research Labs, 2006. And it says what this can be used for is a dense plasma fusion and propulsion technology with a advanced lifting body airframe utilizing air-breathing magnetohydrodynamics, which means it just zaps the air and uses it as energy.
And confronted with one of the most, if not the most, important discovery in the history of human beings. The big question, are we alone? It's the number one question. There's two questions, right? What happens when we die, and are we alone? Those are the two big questions.
Right.
And if we're not alone, and someone knows we're not alone, and these some people who know we're not alone are these bungling sort of
even if they weren't,
folks.
it's a crime that they're not telling the rest of us.
But I mean, I don't mean bungling in terms of they're incompetent. I mean, they can't be competent. It seems to me, to what you're describing, that no one can be competent with this technology. Like the Victorian era scholars analyzing some sort of a nuclear reactor. There's no way.
Why do you think they're not telling us? Let's just make an assumption that this is true right now. Why do you think that they're not telling us, that our government doesn't tell us? What's your best thought?
Let me put it into what you do. If I'm the president, okay, and I get this information, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? There's something that we don't know. There's something we don't understand.
You know what that is,
There's something that came from another world. We got it tucked away in the mountains. And just wanted you guys to know about it. Hey, sleep tight. Hey, American Idol's on tonight. Who do you think's going to win?
Yeah.
Who's going to win America's Got Talent?
That's not going to happen.
So what?
And one of the first things people say is, well, gravity, how can gravity be related to electromagnetism? Electromagnetism is so much more powerful than gravity is. But if you look at the forms, the equations for Coulomb's force and gravity, you'll find that the forms of the equations are exactly the same.
Identical.
Yeah, identical. You have just a constant, and then you have mass 1 or electric force 1 times mass 2 or electric force 2 divided by r squared, right? And it's the same for both of them. So then the question is, why are those constants different? And this is where I pass it over to Dr. Yu for his example, right?
Yes, that's exactly what's wrong with Newton's gravitational equation. Newton force only one dimensional from the center to center. Does not have enough control. Of course, it's a chaotic universe, right? Yep. If you change Newton into electromagnetic force, everything just works the same way as we observe.
You say they move in six dimensions?
Oh, if you want to control, let's say, a rigid body, every rigid body you have 6 degrees of freedom in order to
all the different directions.
Yeah, in order to able to describe its position and orientation.
Okay, so that's like left, right, up, down, forward,
and the rotation.
And rotation
on each axis.
And then in like chemistry, the hexagon is super stable. The 6 points creating like this inward pressure.
Yeah, you would see it's a stable chemical elements, right? Has a symmetry.
The heart of the dense plasma focus are 2 cylindrical electrodes only a few inches across, nested inside each other. The electrodes are enclosed in a vacuum chamber with a low-pressure gas filling the space between them. A pulse of electricity from a capacitor bank, an energy storage device, is discharged across the electrodes. For a few millionths of a second, an intense current flows from the outer to the inner electrode through the gas. Instabilities first compress the gas into dense filaments. These filaments are little whirlwinds of plasma. The sheath of filaments converges together into a dense pinch or focus, combining all the filaments into one. This filament kinks and twists itself into a tiny dense ball only a few thousandths of an inch across, called a plasmoid. Instability in a plasmoid creates powerful beams in opposite directions. Positively charged nuclei flow in one direction, and electrons flow in the other. The electron beam heats the plasmoid to billions of degrees, hot enough to fuse nuclei together to release fusion energy. In sum, the DPF operates by leveraging electricity to induce a plasma state for some gas. It then exploits a series of instabilities within the plasma to bring about controlled nuclear fusion. We call this focus fusion.
Well, I mean, the only thing I could verify was what I had my hands on. There was talk of weapon systems, that there were different projects. Project Galileo, Project Sidekick was supposed to be weapon applications of the craft. Project Looking Glass had to do with time, any effects of time in the craft. Now, I don't think we're not talking about making a time machine like in science fiction, but we're talking about, small distortions, intentional distortions of time. These, again, were just the small briefings that I read. But again, I don't really like to talk about those because I don't have any information on them, and it was just small briefings.
But you told Commander Fravor that what he saw might have been a time dilation and not
it could be
propulsion.
Because gravity affects time, space-time. I'm sure you've heard of that. And, what Commander Fravor saw as he was in the F-18 approaching it, he said he described it as a ping-pong ball in a cup and shaking it back and forth. It was moving that fast.
Pointing north-south, and it's going north-south, east-west. It's just radically moving forward, back, left, right at will. And it's moving around the disturbance, the whitewater that we see.
How big is this thing?
So, over time, it's about 40 feet long.
Now, obviously, if there's anything inside there, it's going to be battered to hell. But, my point was that, one of two things. Either there's a gravitational envelope in there which negates any inertia effects, or you are seeing through a gravity distortion field. So, just like you're looking at a hot highway and you see, like an
water.
optical distortion going through there. Well, the same thing happens in gravity, and the craft may not actually be moving like that. It may just look like it because you can only see it through the field. So it may be making much more gentle moves. I'm not saying that's it, but it has to be one of the two.
What's fascinating to me, too, is that you were discussing this, the way this reactor worked, and that these things were not really connected.
No, nothing is connected. There's no wiring at all.